And, you know, you just can't, you can take the girl out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the girl, and that is me. All I've written, well, let me get my notes. I think I've written. I started writing primarily when I turned 65. And I have written 7 books and published 4. And I'm about to publish my 5th. And this is my advanced copy. And when I first started writing and I found out I could get advanced copies, I got so excited. So I'd get 10 advanced copies. Well, nobody wants an advanced copy because it's full of mistakes. I mean, this is my advanced copy. And so now I have all these books that somebody, that they're going to go to the landfill. But I don't know why. I learned my lesson. So, but the reason you need an advanced copy, in my opinion, is so that you can go through and do what I just did. Because this just costs $5 on Amazon. So I see where I need to rewrite, see where I need to mess up. Anyway. My first book was called Bone of the Day, and I wrote it right after I retired from my private investigations business. And it is a compilation of the crazy stories my PI class told. Oh my goodness. It was fun. I drove to Dallas every weekend for 6 months. I put 47,000 miles on my car. I really did. I'm not exaggerating. And I bought a new set of tires. I think I only had 18,000 miles on my car when I first started. So anyway, I rode 14,000 miles on my car. And so Bone of the Day is taken from a phrase that's in the Bible that Jacob wrestled with the angel until the bone of the day. And the bone of the day is like noon. And it's evidently it's the hardest part of the day. And scholars think that this phrase originated in the Near East, in China, because the Aramaic word was very close to the Chinese interpretation. So I thought that was interesting. And thanks to my minister, because I like that. But it's about all of the crazy things that happened in my PI class, and crazy things that happened to me, and crazy things that I just made up. and mostly it's made up, but from a fairly realistic viewpoint of a private investigator at 65 years old. And it was the reason I wrote the book and the reason I became a PI is because one of my students disappeared, and his family was so distraught, and they went 3 years without any idea of what happened to this child. And I sincerely, when it first happened, I sincerely feel like the detectives in the department were like, "There's a Hispanic teenager, who cares?" And the way they ran the investigation was so shoddy that when they finally got the clues, with the mother's help, because she went to the house that her son had last been, and they went into the house, and she took a private crime scene investigator, and they ripped back the brand new carpet that the tenants had laid. I mean, how many people do you know leave a house cleaner and new carpet and new paint? I mean, hello, red flag. And nobody did anything about it, so they found this child's blood on the floorboards when they removed the carpet. And she and the investigator and her lawyers went down to the local police department, and half the guys that did the investigation, oh trial with it, and he got 2 years at the time served. Because the case was absolutely, horrifically jeopardized. They couldn't have gotten a conviction. So this mother found and then one of the guys in the group who assisted in the murder and knew where the body was, finally, they gave him $10,000 for his information. And they took him to the outside of town and let him go. And then they found out where they found Mark's body. Mark was one of my students. And so I thought, maybe I can help with that. The day that I sat for my test in Austin, I had to go down to the Texas Department and sit for the exam. Oh man, that was so scary stuff. And I got back on my Facebook feed that his exam was on. So I decided, well, I can help it. So I did my best. All right, so that's this book.
Oh, can you use the mic? Get a little closer. Okay. Just for this, for the camera. So. Okay.
I have such a loud voice. I've taught, that's the next thing, I've taught for 32 years for Lubbock Independent Schools, and so a lot of the things that I wrote about my schools. The next book was like a dream I had, and it's called Last Chance Texas, and it's about a librarian that gets killed when an arsonist burns down her library. And the whole book, it starts out with her dad, but the whole book's about her. And then the next book I wrote the next book I wrote is called Maid of the Raven's Wood, and it's a fractured fairy tale. One of my favorite fairy tales of all time is The Robber Bridegroom. And a lot of people haven't read that fairy tale, and it's just weird. So, I mean, that just fell right into where I write. Then the next book is called Government Work, and it is, I was married to a young man in the 70s that was very interested in becoming or going to work for the CIA, and he eventually did, but he spent 30 years in the military, and so I thought, I was reading his obituary, and I thought, what would have happened if I had stayed married to him? And what would my life have been like? And so I took his career and wrote about a fictionalized version of what would have happened. And the last book, the one that I'm working on right now, and you'll see it says, not for resale, because it's not meant to be read at this moment. And it is a fractured fairy tale as well. It's called Take Your Fairy Godmother to Work Day. It is the only book I've ever written that goes right into a real genre, and it is just a romance. And it is a true fairy tale. It's Cinderella, and there's a fairy godmother. There's a handsome prince, but he just got out of prison. There is 3 evil women. They're the best friends of the heroine. And the heroine is an unwed mother living in Idlewild, Texas in the 60s. Well, you can imagine how miserable this kid life had made, people in the town had made her. And so, of course, our gentleman and young man that just got out of prison, the reason I wrote this book is I was reading about a man who had been left alone with an infant child, and the child died. And he claimed that that he didn't do anything, and but they still took him to court, and he was convicted of child abuse, neglect, and death of the child. But they let him go. I mean, they convicted him, but anyway, I don't know how they did this. But I thought, what would it? I mean, in the 60s, if your child died of crib death, I could see how somebody would be put in prison. That somebody, a sad mother, would think, my husband did it, he killed his child. And so that's what happened in this story. This young man, his little daughter died while he was working in the house, and he just put her down for a nap, and he went in and checked her, and she wasn't breathing anymore. And so that's my Cinderella tale. There is a fairy godmother, and the reason I wrote this book is because my sister got an Ancestry.com DNA thing, and we found out we're 1/4 French. We thought we were 1/4 Choctaw. So that tells you how strange that was. Nobody in the family ever thought about being French. And so we even found out the area of France where our families came, and it was probably in the early 1800s, and they probably came through Canada and came down. They were Cajun and very poor. And anyway, okay, here's how clueless we were. My grandmother's name was Blanche, very French name, Blanche. My aunt Agnes is a very French name, Maud, very French. I mean, I can't even, there's eight sisters, and they all have French names, and just went right past us. So that's, okay, well, I have this French grandmother is going to come and help this couple, who is actually very godmother. Amanda sent me a list of questions. Is my time up? Is my time up? Soon. Okay. Soon. All right, Amanda sent me a list of questions, and I think I need to post them, because one of the for other people to ise for their author spotlight. Does anybody have any questions for me about anything? Yes, ma'am.
Which part shape do you look?
I think I'll be finished with it in a couple of weeks. So, and I'll put it on the Capital Facebook. Okay, I will. It will be $2.99 on Amazon for the ebook, and the hard copy, $10 if you buy it from me. It's $15 or $16 if you buy it from Amazon. And I am going to put it in a hardback, but that's because I've never done that before, and I'm just going to see what it looks like. I'm pretty happy. Oh, I was going to talk to you about Scrivener and Vellum. Are we done? Are we done? Do I need to quit? Okay. If you have not used Scrivener, I started Scrivener, the first novel I wrote, and I've always used it, and I think it's just a great tool. And now you can import straight to Vellum. And let me show you, one of the benefits of Vellum is it's just gorgeous. I mean, all your books just look so pretty. You can look and you can get any kind of background or font or the way you want it to look, and I just love it. I think the little fancy things, you can change those up. You can now add text, pictures as well as text. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'll